No. Yes, please, yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've all turned up on time, so let's kick it off on time. Welcome to the 2025... you right, gents? Just take a seat. In a minute. Very eager mayoral candidates in Hastings. If you've rolled up to this Havelock North event and you were expecting a circus, I'm very sorry to report that the circus is across the road. Because notwithstanding the big tent going there, this is a 5-ring act tonight with 5 incredible candidates, and I see we've got at least 3 of them. One of them has had a terrible accident the last few days, so advised that they wouldn't be able to join us. And the final wasn't coming. I saw on the billboards on the way here that she has a fresh new vision, and then wasn't sure whether she was coming, so we shall see. Given the... I'll leave that to someone better qualified to... It might just be that those handhelds are on to deal with. Given that we've had at least twice the number of RSVP join us tonight, welcome, but just run through health and safety. Obviously the main exit is through the doors to which you came. The loos are out the back door and just beside the reception in the main foyer, or entrance just beside the reception in the main foyer. My name is Jordan Williams. I'm the Executive Director of the Taxpayers Union, and I will be moderating tonight, or to continue the theme, the Ring Master. I'm ably assisted by Victoria Ralph, my Head of Communications at the Taxpayers Union, who fixes things when I say the wrong thing. And we have a very special guest by the name of Prue, who is 11 and who's going to be holding the candidates, Prio, who has a very special job, and that is holding the candidates to account with a water gun and a timer, should they dare to go over the speaking limit. So tonight is the second of 6 debates being run by the Taxpayers Union, our on-campus group Generation Screwed and Local Ratepayers Alliance sister organisations around New Zealand. Tonight we will have opening statements by each of the candidates, followed by set-piece questions covering finance rates and transparency, infrastructure and recovery, community services, council collegiality, and each candidate's respective vision as mayor. We will then have an audience Q&A, where questions will be posed to either some or all of the candidates. Please express your preference. And to nominate questions, I need you to get your phones out right now. Enter sli.do, S-L-I.do. Perhaps we could bring it here we go, thank you, Tori. And the event code 1900876. So basically you text it in and we will read it out, as opposed to, we've made this mistake before with an audience this large, of having a roaming mic. We will then end just before 8:30 with 2-minute conclusions or summings up by each of the respected candidates. But first, the reason you're all here, the poll. Tori. So the Taxpayers Union had David Farrow's polling company, Courier Market Research. There was another poll out today, and you see the government's behind? What do we make of that? So this is not the official nationwide poll. This was a poll of 500 voters in Hastings District, 425 by phone and 75 from online panel. The first question we asked is, overall, would you say that things in Hawke's Bay are generally headed in the right direction or headed in the wrong direction? I've got my wrong report. And as you can see, 50% of residents said Hawke's Bay is headed in the right direction, only 29% headed in the wrong direction. So a positive net direction of plus 21. I've only received a poll for one other area of the country, and to give you comparison, in that particular district, it was about 70% in the wrong direction. So notwithstanding the events over the last few years and the recovery, generally that's, although it might look bad, actually comparative to other polls we've done, isn't looking too bad. We then asked, how do you rate the overall performance of Hastings District Council over the last year? Would you say it was very poor, poor, average, good, or very good? Well, 28% of Hastings residents rate Hastings District Council's performance as above average, and 33% below average, for a net rating of -5%. We then read out the names of some local residents who may or may not be the mayoral candidates, and asked voters whether they had heard of them and whether they had a positive, negative or neutral opinion of them. In terms of name awareness, if we move to the next slide. In terms of name awareness in order, Damon Harvey on 65%, Wendy Sholem at 59%, Steve Gibson on 51%, Marcus Buddo 45%, and Darren Wilson on 33%. In terms of net favourability in order, Damon Harvey was plus 14%, Wendy Sholem plus 8%, Steve Gibson plus 7%, Marcus on plus 7%, and Darren at -5%. We then asked the question that you've all been waiting for, which is, and of those 5 local residents, which one are you most likely to vote for Mayor of Hastings District? And ladies and gentlemen, there is an overwhelming winner. In fact, we could probably nearly call the election right now, with undecided taking it out at 28% of the vote. So just note there, obviously there is, given that favourable, unfavourable and name recognition result and the mayoral polling result and the high number of undecided, that would suggest to you that the race is in fact still very much wide open. We then asked, because, well, with the Taxpayers Union, that the average rates bill in Hastings District increased by 19% last year. Do you think the level of rates increase was necessary or unnecessary? With, to our astonishment, nearly 2/3 saying that it is unnecessary. We then asked, pointed out, the government is planning to introduce a law that would cap how much local councils can increase rates by every year. Do the good people in Hastings District support or oppose there being a rates cap law? And to our astonishment, 70% of the good, intelligent voters in Hastings District agree with your humble Taxpayers Union. So we'll ask now for the candidates to join us on the stage. I didn't want to have them on the stage reacting to that. They were briefed a few minutes before the event tonight on those results. But if gentlemen, if you'd like to join us on the stage. Thanks, Steve. And if you just grab, Ben, are those both fine to use? Yep. And Steve, given that you were first on to the stage, let's kick it off with you on your 2 minutes, introducing yourself and why we should vote for you to be Mayor.
Thank you. Firstly, I just put my thoughts out to the officer and his family that were shot today, and of course the family of Tom Phillips, having faced that similar situation at a lesser degree. I understand the trauma that their family's going through. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here tonight. Polls, oh well. There's a really big poll on the 11th of October. I'm standing for Mayor because Hastings has had enough of wasteful spending, soaring rates, and a council that's lost touch with its people. Over the past 4 months, I have ridden my e-scooter, crashed only once, and 25,000 doors across our district. The message is clear: people are sick of virtue signalling and rates above inflation. Having served 24 years in the New Zealand and Australian police forces, including a decade as a sergeant, leading teams, managing stations and working as a prosecutor, this is really echoey. I then ran my own motel business for 10 years in Napier, and I served 2 terms as a fielding district councillor in the Manawatu, where I delivered on my promise to cap rates to inflation. I've also built several houses myself from scratch, so I know how to manage projects, keep costs under control, and with experience managing budgets in both government and business, I know how to deliver results. But right now, the Hastings District Council is being reckless with your money. They bought a building in town for $1 million. It was only valued at $600,000, and then they sold it for $150,000 2 years later. That's 15 cents in the dollar. Who was held accountable? Who lost their job? But you can hold them accountable tonight with your vote. When I was door knocking on Conway Place, I saw the kind of waste that frustrates ratepayers, contractors. 3 trucks, 6 staff fixing 1 water leak. 2 staff were sitting in a truck watching their 6 cones on the road. It was a dead-end road. There were no cars. Traffic management, fine. Busy highways, 100%. But not when it's a dead-end road. This shows how Hastings' health and safety policy has shifted from sensible to overcautious, and it's costing us. On a busy highway, full traffic management makes sense. By cutting waste, restoring accountability, we can cap rates and inflation and bring debt under control.
Nearly. We'll now hear from our, look, he's already out. I haven't even said already. We'll now
blinded
from
by the
our,
light.
our most known and liked candidate, but not highest polling candidate, Damon Harvey.
Oh, you can't win them all, can you? You ready to start? Good evening, everybody. Thank you for all of you for attending this evening, a massive crowd. I'm standing because Hastings needs experience, and experience counts. I'm 53, turning 54 in 2 days' time, a father of 5, and I've poured my life into Hastings, into its people, its businesses, and its future. Through attention marketing, the Profit magazine, sellout business events, and most recently a wellness studio in the heart of our city, I haven't just talked about growth, I've lived it. Community leadership has always been close to my heart. I've chaired Sport Hawke's Bay, co-founded the Jared Cunningham Youth Sport Trust, helped launch Mates for Life, a workplace suicide prevention program that saves lives every day. And every May, I take on Slay May to raise money and awareness for mental health. I don't sit on the sidelines, I roll up my sleeves and I lead by example. Since being elected in 2016, I've seen Hastings through its toughest years, the water crisis, COVID and Cyclone Gabrielle. I know how council works, I know where it gets stuck and I know how to make it perform. But here's the truth, Hastings does face challenges. Debt is climbing, inflation is biting, recovery demands sharper leadership. We need bold ideas, smarter use of resources, stronger collaboration with neighbouring councils, and better ways of funding and delivering the services that matter most. The good news, Hastings is full of opportunity. Our food and primary sector, tourism, and a growing knowledge economy give us huge potential. But potential doesn't unlock itself. It takes leadership, it takes focus, it takes belief. I believe in a Hastings that is resilient, affordable, and ambitious. A Hastings with strong infrastructure, thriving businesses, safe neighbourhoods, and an opportunity for every generation. I've given a lot to Hastings. I know our best days are ahead if we have the courage to grab them. So I ask you, choose a mayor who leads with action, with heart, with business experience, and with strong business relationships. Choose a mayor who will make Hastings thrive.
It's working, Priyo, well done. And finally, Marcus.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's lovely to see the room so full. So my name is Marcus Buddo, and I'm running for Mayor to deliver on reducing rates increases and improving housing affordability. When I'm knocking on doors out there, affordability is what people want to talk to me about. And when I talk to people, good people who've worked hard all of their lives and are now on fixed incomes, who feel like they're being forced out of their homes, that breaks my heart. And they're right to be worried. We've got a planned 65% increase in rates over 4 years, a debt path to $700 million, and interest payments that will top $1,000 a year per household. Our district is becoming unaffordable for the people who built it. Yes, we've had crises. Yes, spending money on the cyclone was necessary and it was the right thing to do. But justifying past spending doesn't help ratepayers who are struggling today. Tonight you will hear from others about smart spending, about new committees, about experience. Instead, what I offer you is a detailed plan forward, not slogans. It's at the back of the room on the table just by the door, and I invite you to pick up a copy, take it home, and critique it. My plan is about delivering a district that you can afford to live in, to be successful in, and to retire securely in. A district your children can afford to buy a house in, raise children of their own, so that you can watch your grandchildren grow up on your doorstep, not through a phone screen. That is the goal. That's the reason I'm running for mayor, to deliver on that vision by focusing on core business, delivering infrastructure efficiently, and by making housing more affordable. I have the plan, the record, and the energy to deliver on it. Thank you.
Overhead back on. And so just, if you have questions already, we'll queue them up. sli.do on your phone, the event number 1900876. Just waiting for the, is that coming on? Let's get into the first question. I want to, actually, I really want to show a couple of graphs before we get into the financial questions. So I'll come back to that and get straight on to the second question. The Taxpayers Union has asked every mayoral candidate around New Zealand to sign the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. One of the three pledges is about keeping rates at or below inflation. Even if you've not signed the pledge, or that particular limb of the pledge, mindful that Hastings put up rates by 49% cumulatively over the last 3 years. What is your absolute upper threshold of rates rises that you could commit to not voting for? And just we do it, stay in the same order. Steve.
Well, I'm still committed to keeping rates to inflation. It's my slogan. It's why I started this campaign. And there's no reason to change. There's so much wastage. It's just too easy.
Damon.
Yeah, thank you. Next 2 years are planned to be 10% pay rate rises, followed back to 5%. And the first thing we'll be doing under my watch, day one, is taking a real focus at rates to make sure that we can get them down to what they are manageable. Like you, I'm a ratepayer. The last thing I want to be paying is more in rates, but I also want our district to move forward at the same time.
Yeah, look, if rates keep going up higher than the rate of inflation, we have to accept that they get ever more unaffordable for people. And that's not a situation that's tenable, and we need to get back down in terms of rates increases as quickly as we can. And that just has to be the focus for anyone who's in the mayoral seat or around the council table for the next 3 years. Yep, we've got 2 times 10% in the plans at the moment. That number has to come back. I've got a concrete plan on how to achieve it. Again, you can find it over there. But essentially, it's about getting back to core business. It's about making sure we're spending in the right places, and it's about delivering infrastructure efficiently.
So, Steve, well done. You answered the question. Damon, what is the level of rates that you consider an upper cap for which you wouldn't vote for them to go higher?
I actually don't think it's too easy a question, Jordan, based on what we are facing as a region. You know, the cyclone rate is already 6%, so that is something that we have to take in consideration. I would like to be starting at 0 if we possibly could, and that is always a starting point, but it's actually where we move to from there. And as I said, yes, we need to focus on our core infrastructure, which is 80% of what we actually do. So that is a priority, but we need to keep moving forward.
Okay, so that's not a number there.
Well, I'll give you a number. I think I would like to see something around, I think 5% is manageable, 5 to 6% based on what we're facing at the moment.
Okay. Marcus Buddo. Same question. What is the absolute upper number that you wouldn't support it to go higher?
Look, I actually agree with Damon on the 5 to 6%. That's something that we can manageably get down to. At the end of the day, it comes down to choices. It's about what residents will actually accept that we look at, what we can reduce spending in. For example, maybe I'm just not a culture lover, but I think we need to look at our art gallery in town. That would represent a certain amount of a percentage or two in rate savings year on year. But look, there'll be other people who completely disagree with me on that. I think 5 to 6% for the next year should be manageable, especially with a council that is focused on its core business, delivering infrastructure efficiently, and that is willing to make some hard choices.
Very good. I want to go now just to a couple of slides that my team put together earlier today. And it's a little bit of a sneak peek of our local government league tables that are coming out in the next week or so. But this is the actual, this is the rates bill since 2005. You can see there that there's the nominal number on the bottom, the blue, and the red inflation adjusted in 2024 dollars. If we go up to, that's obviously thousands, so you're talking around 70 million going up to 110 odd million there, and that is in the say, as I say, inflation adjusted. Go on to the next slide. These get progressively worse. This is the Hastings District Council employee costs in thousands, a nominal amount again in blue, and the real amount in 2024 dollars compared to 2005. You can see there more than a doubling over that space of time, despite inflation adjusted. And this one is truly remarkable. Here you'll have to bear with the colour. That red line is total debt. The next is total income or total revenue rates, the second orange one down, and then you'll see the interest expense, the blue, and the grants and subsidies, and that's i.e. government income in the green there. It leads to, if we just go back to the Slido slide now, it leads to the question that in 2015, Hastings District Council's debt was 21 million. And if we look at the number of ratepayers we had back then, residential ratepayers, it amounted to about $712 per residential ratepayer. Today, that's 470 million. Based on the latest stats data, that is $15,255 per residential ratepayer. By 2030, Council is forecasting debt to be 711 million, or depending on that number of households, but looks to be around or at least $21,000 per residential ratepayer. So I'm going to ask each of you, and we'll get Damon to start this time, how are you going to tackle it and ensure that Hastings remains affordable?
You'd probably love me to use the Taxpayers Bible, 102 ways to save money in local government, Jordan.
Excellent report.
I think, yes. An excellent report. Lots of ideas that are actually in it, many of which I raised in January of 2024 in an article that was in Hawke's Bay Today, raising this very issue around the way the rates were going up and what we were facing. I reiterated that again in December 2024 to make sure that people did understand where we were tracking, and again asking for a range of ideas of what we needed to do. One of the things that we want to really focus in on is on day one, as I said before, is getting and making sure that we have got a working party. We had a working party involved last year when we were facing a 25% interest rate rise, and we dropped that down to 19%, but we're having to borrow for that. So again, that is something else that we need to be aware of. Thank you.
Danger. Marcus Buddo.
I can watch the little fella lining us up here. It puts you under pressure much more than the crowd does, I'll tell you what. Don't need to be the one that gets wet. But look, no, this is exactly the reason I've put together my 10-point plan, which you can find at the back. The first point is about recommitting to core business. We need to make sure that that is where your money is being spent. You want to turn your tap on in the morning, clean water comes out, you want to flush your toilet, it goes away again. You want to drive to work and not fall in a pothole, and you want to open your rates bill and not get a heart attack. And that is what I feel like our council should be delivering for you. We need to go through our activities and make sure that they are appropriate for what the ratepayers expect us to do. My feeling on things like, say, the art gallery is one opportunity for savings there. We need to make sure that the assets we hold are appropriate for the current time as well. We've got shareholdings in a couple of things like the airport, and the Crown is selling its share at the moment. So there's opportunities there as well as land holdings. We need to deliver infrastructure much more efficiently, and that means reducing the usage of road cones, being much smarter around... Okay. Look, the rest of the 5 points are in the plan. I invite you to give it a read before I get washed off the stage.
Steve.
Vanity projects. You've heard it. You've heard it many times. You've seen them. Civic Square being upgraded for $1 million. It's this sort of stuff that's costing us money. 483 staff at this council. That's up 104 years ago. 45 departments. Do we need 45 departments? Manawatu District Council, when I was there, we had less than 10 departments. We had 2 group managers, 2.5 actually, because one of them was shared. So shared services. Why do we need 8 group managers and a deputy CEO? $39 million we spend on staff. You take the top 10 echelon out, and they're averaging $80,000 a year, these staff, and most of them aren't even qualified. Like, is that reflecting the private society? Is that reflecting you guys? And the other thing, we're ripping citizens off with this council preferred contractors. We got rid of those in Manawatu in 2010 because I knew it was wrong. You should have competition. My pensioner lady that I door knocked on wanted a tree removed from her place. $200, the local digger driver was there, was going to remove it for. No. Must go through the council preferred contractor for $2,500.
Is it a shame they're not talking more over time?
It's too good a threat.
So, we've done not my first time at the rodeo. What is something, and we'll get you to start first time, Marcus, this time. What is something you consider the council does really well, and what is something you consider the Hastings Council does poorly, and what are you going to do about it?
Sure thing. I'm going to have to swap mics. That one ain't working, and I want you to hear my answers. Look, there's a few things that we do actually really well. For example, most of our infrastructure projects are actually coming in under budget at the moment, and that's a really good result that will save you money over time. If you look at the recent Local Waters Done Well consultation, we got the most submissions out of any city outside of Auckland in the whole country. And if that doesn't speak to actually being able to get out there and talk to people, I don't know what does. When I've worked with council staff, they've been diligent and helpful, and they've certainly helped me solve problems for people out there. When it comes to things that we do poorly, look, it reflects the national picture. We do things around health and safety much too stringently. We do road cones and traffic management much too stringently. They're both areas that I'd really like to see a change on. I don't want to see kilometres of road cones and 100 sheep going past a traffic light in the middle of nowhere. I mean, just slow down and make sense. And it's probably one of the places we can save actual money and make life a bit better for you.
Steve.
Yeah, I have to agree with the bridges. That was well under budget, that last Pukitepu bridge. Obviously they're getting tighter in their contracts, but we're spending $241 million last year on consultants and contractors. They wouldn't give us the answer of how much it's on consultants, but I've just got a response today for one consultant that cost $39,000 to reorganise council offices. And the price came in at $3.5 million, and they decided, whoa, that's too much money, thank God. So in 22 they shelved that. But $39,000, I punched that into ChatGPT just for an experiment today, and 5 seconds later I got a range from $2.5 to $3.5 million that would cost to develop the Hastings District Council. That was in 5 seconds, a hell of a lot cheaper than 39 grand. So it gives you an idea it's going to cost shitloads of money, right? So what do? You don't do it. Thank you.
Damon.
I have to agree with what Marcus was saying in and around what we have done well. The cyclone and the rollout of that project has been incredible. We are saving lots of money as we progress through that. It's a 6 to 7 year program, and we hope to come well under budget, and that'll end up back in your back pockets. The other one I want to touch on is housing. Housing, there's been a lot of good work done in that area. It is an issue, and we need to make more homes affordable. The area that I've really struggled with in my entire 9 years on council is actually the Building Regulatory Department. They have probably been the people many people in this audience have dealt with them. They are, or has been, a real struggle. But in 2023, we managed to get a review of that department undertaken, and now that is moving its way through the system, and we're seeing fantastic progress through there. The next steps on that will probably be that we will end up with a regional regulatory division going forward, which again will streamline things more. Thank you.
Well, to note out the audience questions, I can see them coming through. A lot of them relate to affordability. But turning now to other areas, what do you see as the key challenges, other than the affordability, for both the council and the community over the next 5 to 10 years? And I think, Damon, it's your turn. Sorry, Steve.
My turn.
To go first.
I think engaging with the public. When the last election, 32% voted. I mean, that's a really low turnout. We need to engage people. I engage people by door knocking. I've knocked on, as I said before, 25,000 houses now coming up. And you're talking to people and you know what the problem is because you're talking to them. So how about we get a council member on council to have a portfolio of a suburb each, and maybe they can do a little bit of door knocking for a change instead of just me.
Okay. We'll go to the end, yeah.
Look, our long-term plan has a lot of infrastructure spending in it. It's $2.2 billion over the next 10 years that we're investing in things like cyclone recovery, $657 million in water. And that's probably the key challenge. It's delivering on that, making sure they come in at budget, at time, and that they don't cost you too much money. And it means we need to have a competent engineering department. It means we need to be really good at delivering capital works. It's something where councils had to ramp up hugely over the last few years with the cyclone recovery. We went from delivering something along the lines of $30 to $60 million of capital work a year to doing 200 million plus. And that is a key challenge. You need to have the right people in your team to make sure that you're not spending all of your money on consultants, that you don't have to redo projects, and that where you spend your money, and again, that's our biggest cost driver is infrastructure, that we do that really, really well.
Gee, some of these you just have to keep agreeing with. So likewise, we've got $480 million that we will be spending in infrastructure over 25, 26. So that is a big thing, and ultimately that comes back to where we are at with the financials. So, I get it that a lot of people, and also the stats that we're seeing today, that the financials are one of the biggest issues, not only that council is facing, but also that we are facing. So that has to be one of those key focus. And the next part of that is that with what we've got, we actually need to deliver it. And there's a lot of competition in the marketplace at the moment, despite what Steve says. There are a lot of contractors out there wanting to get council work, and we need a strong local procurement program that enables that to happen.
The next question is about collegiality. It's fair to say that some councils across New Zealand have been a bit dysfunctional. The question I have down is to ask each of you to say something you genuinely admire about one of the other candidates on stage. I did warn the candidates that they would have to, might have to say something nice about their peers, but I'm hearing two candidates agree far too much. So I'm going to put a second limb to the question and say that you also have to say something you admire, but also somewhere where you differ. And should we, I think, Damon, it was your go first.
Well, two of us are on council, one isn't. It may well be on council. Marcus, I like the fact that really, if you look in this audience here tonight, you're very young. And I think that actually having you coming forward shows actually that there are opportunities within local body governance for people younger, because that's actually what we want. We want a broader demographic of people actually involved in participating in local government, and that is a major issue. What was the other one? What I struggle with? Where we differ. Oh, we differed on the FDS. So the Future Development Strategy, we both looked at that a little bit differently. We both want to protect the fertile plains, but we actually looked at it a little bit differently when it relates to two land parcels that are LUC or top quality soils, and I wanted to make sure that we protect those just on the edge of Havelock North. So that was something we did look at differently.
There's two candidates on stage. I can say something nice about both, right? Okay, well, that's a good start. Look, Damon, I really appreciate that even when we differ around the council table, we can still sit down, have a chat, and talk it out, and that's really helpful. And it's the kind of culture you want around a council table. You want to be able to disagree and then sit down again and work on something else that you might actually agree on or move forward. Steve, look, mate, you've knocked on a damn load of doors, and honestly, that level of effort and commitment is just commendable, and well done for putting yourself out there. It's genuinely not an easy thing to do, and it's highly admirable. Now, like Damon said, honestly, we've got some differences at times. There's been some differences, for example, with Hawke's Bay tourism spending or Frimley Pools at times, although we've just agreed on that. But I am glad that we can move past those disagreements and those issues and work together on other things. And Steve, I haven't worked with you yet, so maybe we can look forward to that, and maybe I'll have some more positives and maybe a negative by the time you get there.
I'm going to talk about all 5 candidates. They are all passionate, and they all want to do their very best for Hawke's Bay because they do love the Hawke's Bay and Hastings. So I want to put that's my commend them both for that. And the two that aren't here, and Darren, he'd have to be the most passionate of the lot. But yeah, I guess the difference is that I'm the only one that really wants to cap rates to inflation, and it's just something I really drive towards. And I guess that's my big point of difference.
Well, that concludes the speed dating for the evening. We're now back to the circus. Sorry, the dysfunction. No, the audience questions is where we're going to. And I'm going to pick up a comment from Damon, who had a rather rude sledge towards the humble supporters of your humble Taxpayers Union, suggesting an issue with age. How are you going to better engage with younger voters?
You did bring the entire circus to town, didn't you, instead of just the blow-up castle like you did last time when one candidate on the stage and others voted for youth around the council table, which is something that I'm dead against. I just felt that was something that was a step too far. We are voted in by the people of all of you here, and we're completely accountable to you. And I felt that was overstepping or overreach. So that's really important. But in saying that, we do need to we need to engage better with all walks of life, all ages, because local body politics or councils, it does really matter. There is a lot at stake here. And the more people that are actually involved in it, the better direction we have going forward, because we get to understand what their pain points are, but also what are the great opportunities for a place like Hastings. Thank you.
Marcus, you obviously voted, correct me if I'm wrong, for the appointment of youth councillors onto council committees. by all means, the answer, if you want to address that,
Yeah,
you can.
sure thing. And Jordan, I wouldn't want to accuse the Taxpayers Union of ever stretching the truth, but that might have been a little bit far on one of those.
Sorry, did you not vote?
No, I did.
apologise.
But the point is that, look, I'll put this fundamental one down, right? If you're making decisions with people's money, you're trusted with responsibility, you need to be accountable to them, and that in our system is through elections, right? And so I genuinely believe that if you're making decisions that make big changes in the district or you're spending money, that those decisions need to be made by your elected members, and if I make the wrong ones, you can ditch me at the next election. Now, when it comes to voting in subcommittees and working groups and things where you sketch out ideas and you put things together and you work with others that then also need to be accepted, edited and approved by council, then by all means, I think we can bring other voices to the table, whether those are young voices or consultants or people on our Risk and Assurance Committee who have specific expertise in things like insurance or risk.
Very good. Steve, youth engagement, Steve.
Youth engagement, of course I wouldn't have voted for unelected youths to get on council table. But talking about engagement, I've got to share this with you guys. I've got a post on, my daughter actually got it when she was on holiday. But the post came through, vote the cuzzy that just pulled up to my place in Flaxmere on a scooter. Most gangster thing I've ever seen. I thought that was gold. And that was obviously a youth.
We'll address this question to the two councillors on stage and start with you, Marcus. An audience member asks, if we had another Gabrielle tomorrow, what's different now? What has improved or changed?
Look, there's some things that have gotten better and there's some things that have gotten worse. So when it comes to the things that have gotten better, we've got 43 community hubs out there that are staffed, that are trained, that have equipment. And should the district get cut off again, should a bridge go out, those types of things, like it did in Gabrielle and a whole bunch of places, we have communities that can look after each other, that can communicate with civil defence, and that have training in how to respond to these things. That is a key learning from the cyclone when communication went down, when places like Pātoka were cut off for about 8 weeks. So that's something that's much better. Something that we don't have anymore is capacity in our debt. And before the cyclone, debt was sitting at about 180 million, and now it's sitting at well over 400 million, and that is right at the edge of our ability to borrow. If we had another cyclone tomorrow, we would genuinely struggle to be able to borrow the money to respond in an appropriate way and in a timely way.
Damon.
Same, touching on all the same ones as what Marcus is, but the one where we are being let down, I believe, is actually the Hawke's Bay Regional Council. And we are still waiting for a range of stop bank projects to really commence and get underway. We're incredibly vulnerable in our river and our water catchments, and that actually has to be a real focus, and it is something that we need to put more pressure on them to protect our livelihoods and our economy.
This question's for all the candidates, and we'll start with you, Steve. How would you fix Hastings' CBD?
I wouldn't spend any more money on it, for starters. How many times have they ripped up the Civic Square in the last 20 years? I think we do need to go up, and I think we need to look at fresh ideas, as another candidate's often pointed out, but I haven't seen many of them in the last 9 years. But we need fresh ideas around stop building on good land, right? We keep building out like every single city does around the world, it seems. We need to go up. And apartment buildings, I mean, look at the empty buildings down here at Tonga Street West. You know, vape shops, nail salons, and then an empty shop, then another empty shop. I mean, it's just, that's the real problem. It's that side of town's just been neglected. All the money's poured on this side of town, but nothing's gone on the other side. So I knocked on all their doors and said, what do you reckon we need? And these are the people that own the businesses and run these businesses, and they said, we need a mall. We need a food court, more importantly, and preferably with some apartments on top. That's an idea. It's got to be private driven, not rate driven though.
Marcus.
Look, I don't think there's any doubt that Hastings at CBD looks a whole lot better today than it did 10 years ago. I can't remember the last time I went over to Napier to have a nice meal or do something like that. I come to Hastings, I come to Havelock. It's the place to be. Now, I do think we need to take a bit of a breather when it comes to spending ratepayers' money. We need to take an enabling role as a council, and we need to work with other partners. Where we can get funding to do things like the Meatball Festival, which was a great success, or Taste Hastings, bring people into town, work with private developers to make sure that they actually spruce up the inner city as well, that type of thing. Absolutely see a role of council there, and that would be really helpful to improving especially the west end of town, which desperately does need some love.
Damon.
Well, I have a vested interest in the CBD. I do have a business. It's not the brothel that I actually managed to shut down a week or so ago. It actually is a wellness studio. But those are the things we've got to make sure. We've got to make sure that there is right business in the right location. Steve, what you were sort of referring to before, if we took that approach, you'd be well over your inflation in completing some of the projects. In Hastings, over the 9 years, in the CBD, there's been 27 CBD enhancement projects. One of those obviously is the catalyst of Toi Toi, which has revitalised that end of town. We do need to move it down to the other end of town as well and do some stuff there, but it all has to be programmed and it all actually has to be affordable. And one of the ways to do that is in partnership with our developer community. And two exciting projects or things that we need to look at. One is inner city apartments, which will be kicking off in Queen Street later this year. And the other one is that there's an opportunity, hopefully, that we can build another hotel. We've got one. It's incredibly successful. It's at over 90% occupancy. So there's a great opportunity to get another one up and running that can also feed the conference scene at Toi Toi.
We had a bit of a sweepstake on the staff to know how long it would take for Wendy's brothel to be raised. We weren't going to raise it, but there you are. There's the timing. We've had a lot of questions come through, specifically for Damon, but I don't really want to put that unless there's specific questions in relation to the other candidates too. So then that would be very unfair. So there's a hint. If you've got questions, please keep them coming. We're now going to move on to been asked, what is each of the candidates' views on amalgamation? And can you explain why you either support or oppose it? And I think we can take it as a given that regional councils are going anyway. So ignore that. We're talking amalgamation with Napier or the CHP.
In my view, amalgamation has to happen. I was involved in 2015 to try and get amalgamation across the line here in Hawke's Bay. That was unsuccessful. It was at a referendum. I can't see another referendum into the future. What I will see is that there'll be political pressure from central government, and the first part of that will be the disbanding of the unitary authorities, and then it'll be how we look at how we put forward any type of amalgamation going forward. That could be, and I think probably our most willing partner would be Central Hawke's Bay Council at the moment. Napier, maybe not so, it depends on what the leadership looks like over there. But that is something that we really need to focus in on. It'll get projects done, it'll create efficiencies, as I've referred to before, regulatory division of council, building consenting area. That program or that is already underway as an opportunity. So there is those types of things that we need to look at and push forward as quickly as we can.
Oh, Jordan, a bit rough to some of the regional council candidates that might be in the audience to find out they mightn't have a job so soon. But look,
I'd lost that one a long ago.
Look, to me, if you started with a blank map and Hawke's Bay, you wouldn't end up with 5 councils. That's the bottom line there. But look, it is something that ratepayers and voters routinely reject at referendums. And while I think we can do a whole lot more around shared services, working better together and making sure that we find savings together where we can, it's not something that I'm going to push if I'm lucky enough to be elected as mayor. I think we need to get our own house in order, we need to sort ourselves out, and it's not something that I'm willing to spend the bandwidth, the money, the time on pursuing.
Yeah, so the flavour of CHB, both mayoral candidates down there are opposed to amalgamation. And I do understand why. On Manawatu, they tried to amalgamate us with Palmerston North, and we were fiercely opposed because we knew we'd get swallowed up and all the money would go into Palmerston North. Now, Napier and Hastings, on the other hand, they're pretty much equal, right? So it makes a lot of sense to have, we could cut down half the management for starters, one CEO. That certainly makes a lot of sense. And if CHB's rates keep going the way they are, they will come crawling to us. I'd be very surprised because they cannot afford to keep going the way they are. So amalgamation is the way to go. But we need to lead by example, as Marcus says, get our house in order, get our expenses down, and start bringing these debt levels down. We're doing really well with water and the infrastructure. We're leading Napier on that front. We just have to keep on doing it, and we have to do it smarter. We have to have increased competition to get more contractors with the little guys down, let them quote for jobs, and that'll bring the price down.
Right, a fun one now that sort of bounces off that. Napier, Hawke's Bay showed a Napier or Hastings. What's one thing we should borrow from Napier, and what's one thing they should borrow from us? You have to compliment Napier, basically. That's very difficult, I know.
Well, one would hope they were tourism, and I think in the arts would have to go with us. So they are Hawke's. Well, actually, they're both good at arts. Hawke's. That's a hard one, isn't it? So yeah, they're tourism model, but I think we just needed to be smarter. When it comes to roads, we're good at the urban roads and the rural roads, so we should be the boss of the roads. They could be the boss of tourism, for example. So, and that's shared services. They could take the lead. All the tourist stuff would go on their house, and all the roading staff could come to our house. And there's your shared services starting to happen. And before you know it, we're amalgamated.
Damon.
I was actually walking around Ahuriri on early Saturday morning, and it's a pretty special place first thing in the morning, and it would be great to see if Hastings gets even a greater share of the income that comes from the cruise ships. So that is something that we need to tap into. What could we give them in return? I'm not sure about that one, really. One of the things that's going to be an issue into the future is actually around our community assets and our facilities, and those are things that we are going to have to get together on. If you think of McLean Park in Napier, the sports park in Hastings, and PGA Arena, they are all facilities that are costing a lot of money to operate, and they are things that we're going to have to band together into the future to make sure that we look after them and they can continue to be used by future generations.
Look, I think what Napier does really well is it celebrates its architecture beautifully. It's lovely. It's got a lovely situation there. It's got some beautiful buildings. We've got some lovely buildings in Hastings as well, but they certainly manage to celebrate them much more. And I really enjoy Ahuriri and going down there and enjoying a drink by the harbour. It's stunning, and I think we're getting to that place in Hastings, but that vista is something special. And look, I think what Napier would love to borrow of us is our engineering department and our water department so that they can get some capital works done.
Gents, Damon, starting this time, what do you think about culling pools like Frimley versus expensive facilities like, and I excuse the pronunciation of, this is not having lived here for 15 years, Toawa, is that right? Tauraha? No, it's not. That's not what's written. That seem to only attract tribute bands. Where do you stand on this?
Is that Toi Toi? Whoever
wrote it?
No, it was where bands play, you say?
What do you think about culling pools in front of cities versus expensive facilities like...
It's Toi Toi, I would say.
Okay.
So sorry, read that out again.
What do you think about culling pools like Frimley versus expensive facilities like Toi Toi that seem to only attract tribute bands? Where do you stand on this?
I beg to differ on that, actually. And I think that's far from the truth. Toi Toi has actually got relatively high occupancy, and we need to, it's a place where our community can come together and enjoy arts and culture. and also celebrate success. So I think Toi Toi is a fantastic facility. Frimley Pool, which we just debated last week, the option was to decommission it completely or furlough it. The decommission, we are looking at that now, and that's a significant amount of money, $300,000 to do so. I wasn't in favour of that. I thought it was best to furlough it, see if we had some wider commercial interest. We've put out some tenders. There wasn't any in the first round, but I think it was a short-sighted approach to actually close that as is now.
Marcus.
Look, I think we need to look at all of our facilities and all of our activities and go through them and make sure we're spending in the right places. The decision to close Frimley Pool was made 5 or 10 years ago when investment and maintenance started being cut off. And when a facility starts costing, $30 every time somebody goes for a swim, $40 every time somebody goes for a swim to you guys, the ratepayer, I'm not sure that you're getting good value for money. I agreed with Damon that we should have furloughed the pool. I think that we need to have a plan before you do any kind of decommissioning or change something permanently, and it would be nicer to have a destination before you start spending money on something. When it comes to places like Toi Toi, look, you, the ratepayer, you've put a lot of money into that place. It's looking lovely. It's livened up that end of town. Do I think we need to go through and make sure that we're doing the right mix of community and commercial events? Absolutely. It needs to defray its costs as much as possible, but you have invested a lot of money in that, and it just carries a lot of cost because of that debt.
Yeah, well, the Toi Toi building costs something like $45 million to build. It's 17.8 staff from memory, so that's, $3 million roughly a year to run. That's an awful lot of money. Are we getting value for money? Are the people of Flaxmere going to the Toi Toi events very often? I don't know. I couldn't afford a $500 ticket for a cocktail evening. It's too much money at the Toi Toi. And the $500 a ticket for the cocktail evening. That's how much it cost with the lady from 7 Sharp. And Frimley Pools, it is a shame, but we've got a big brand new pool, not just down the road. But yeah, 300,000, hey thanks. Come on, shoot me, I'll let you.
Right, the speed dating's definitely over because I'm going to ask some of the more pointed questions that are coming through. This is for Damon Harvey. How will you manage running your own marketing business, wellness studio, and being mayor? Who's going red?
My number one priority is to be Mayor of Hastings. It's what I've wanted to do for a long time. I ran in 2019 against the current Mayor, Sandra Hazelhurst. It is something that will be my utmost priority. The wellness studio, that is my wife is leading that business, so I'm not actively involved in their day-to-day. In fact, I've done more saunas than I think anybody else in the facility. The attention marketing business, the main part of that I will want to continue is I've got a business magazine called The Profit, and I've got a business event series called Profit Unleashed. They bring our community together, the business community together, and I see that as a huge opportunity for myself in the role as Mayor to get a better understanding and remain connected to the business community with another hat on that actually isn't as Mayor of Hastings. Thank you.
I'll start with Marcus on this one. In provincial New Zealand, local body tickets don't tend to be transparently party related. Are you associated with any political party or movement?
No.
Steve?
Just for your 25th of July was that $500 cocktail party. And no, I'm not affiliated to any parties.
Damon, you're obviously your better half is a former local Labour Party MP. Your stepdaughter is a former fantastic intern at the Taxpayers Union, who in fact had wrote a very good report called 102 Ways to Save Money in Local Government some years ago. But others say that you would be more at home in the National Party. So what is your politics? Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Oh, you just wish you could sit on the fence on particular things, couldn't you? And I was asked this question actually at Kmart on the weekend. So I have been a member actually of the National Party. And I was a member of the National Party when Craig Foss was running for the MP. Subsequently, my wife, yes, she ran for the Labour Party, and as any good partner would do, they would give 100% to their partner to make sure that they succeed, as she is doing for me this time round. So I look at, I've been a fence or a jumper, a flipper, whatever you may like, based on what is currently happening at the time and what I think is going to best benefit our family and our communities.
Good. We'll stay with you, Damon. What is something you've voted, as a councillor, what is something you have voted against or not supported?
Okay, here's a big one, and again took quite a lot of flack for this. In the cyclone recovery, we decided to spend We decided that we would buy out property building or properties at $50 million contribution. Where I did draw the line with that was actually when we came to the demolition costs of those properties, because I felt that we had all contributed as a community as much as we possibly could, and for $20,000 to $30,000 when they were getting really good payouts, including in most instances also some insurance and also some cost for demolition, that was where I drew a line, that we as a community had given as much as what we could, but we couldn't give any more.
Marcus.
Look, there's a couple of good examples of that. One is Hawke's Bay Tourism funding. Regional Council declined to fund Hawke's Bay Tourism. It came to Council for around about just under $500,000 a year for us to fund it. I drew the line at funding it out of general funds. It shouldn't be coming out of the back pocket of people who are already struggling. If it's an industry that needs support, I'm happy for that to happen through a targeted rate, but I just cannot justify it when I get ratepayers giving me a ring, like someone who's a solo mum gave me a ring after our last rates demand went out and said, mate, what do you want me to choose here? Do you want me to buy groceries this week? Do you want me to pay my insurance? Do you want me to pay for my kid's health insurance, who is a prior medical? Or do you want me to pay your rates? And I cannot justify taking money for a tourism industry out of her back pocket. So that's probably the biggest one.
Across New Zealand, many councils are voting on... no, for all candidates, sorry, for all candidates. Māori wards, do you support them or not, and why?
Do I get to start? Yeah. No, I'll be voting no. That's my personal view. Look, we've covered this at the last debate as well. I think that Hastings has shown a willingness to elect Māori candidates in general wards, whether that's Flaxmere, Hastings, Havelock North. I think that we've had some really competent and very, very good councillors in our council that have been elected by the people of Hastings broadly.
Well, apparently, according to the poll, 42% of Te Pāti Māori support me, and I don't support Māori wards. And there is a reason for that, because I'm not anti-Māori, right? Because I believe they can go really 100% on their own 2 feet. And it's you look at a spoiled child, you give them everything and give them and don't let them work for it. What happens? They don't perform. Way better to help people help themselves. They don't need special treatment. They are very willing and very capable of getting on council with their own 2 feet.
Well, I'll blow the bubble in the room. I, as well as Marcus, have supported and voted for Māori wards on our council. And there are many reasons why, but one of the ones that became most evident in recent weeks was the future development strategy, which actually it wouldn't have gone ahead without Māori support around the table. And the way I looked at that was that they actually looked at it in the protection of the land and wanting to make sure that that was something that would drive our economy forward. So I have supported Māori wards, and it's now up to you guys to make that decision in a referendum. So whatever I get to do is the same as you. One of the things I will be doing afterwards is actually reviewing the representation model completely. I think we need to look at...
He didn't stop either, he did.
So, Auckland, I'm actually going to ask a follow-up for that. So obviously the...
At least I got a clap, or did he get the clap?
There's really two issues with Māori wards, and reasonable minds can differ on the question of Māori wards. From the Taxpayers Union perspective, as Democrats, we say that that ultimate decision should be up to referenda. Did you support or oppose putting the decision to introduce Māori wards to referenda?
Yes.
Yes, that's why I voted to go to a referendum.
So we've talked a lot tonight about fiscal prudence and the affordability issue. Could the candidates cite specific examples of nice-to-haves or things where the council should be cutting back?
I mean, if you...
Damon was keen last time and it wasn't his, so it must be Damon's turn first. Okay, well,
I'll get into it. Look, I've got my 10-point plan at the back. It does cover this exact topic. You're very welcome to pick up a copy and take a look for yourself.
Take us through one of the 10 points.
I know, I've already taken you through one, which is, I think, the art gallery at a subsidy of northwards of $70 a visit. I just think that's a nice to have. We support the community art gallery. That needs to keep going. It's a wonderful space, but I'm just not sure we need two national art galleries, one in Hastings and one in Napier. I think that generally speaking, we need to get back to what only our council can deliver, and one of those things to me is our social housing portfolio. I don't think that's the role of the ratepayer to provide social housing. We run 220 senior housing units. They are desperately needed, don't get me wrong, but our residents get a poor deal out of it. Because we can't be a community housing provider and get subsidies, they pay more to us than they would to a community housing provider, and we get less as ratepayers. The activity owes the ratepayers money, and we don't have the balance sheet to replace the units.
So I'm going to talk about the Waiaraha Water Education Centre. I keep calling it the Water Museum for some reason. So that was built, $8.5 million, right? And it was mainly, they got the government's grants out of it, so it wasn't rates. Well, at least $8 million of that wasn't rates. But it's not the purchase of it, it's the running costs. We've got 2.2 full-time staff running that place at over $200,000 a year to run it. And how many visitors go to it? Not many. Maybe a hiss and a roar when it first opened up, but I've been in there and recently there's a couple of billboards down the side and it's basically empty. And the guys, and I'm getting complaints from inside the council saying it was the biggest waste of money they ever did. And that was from internal whistleblowers.
I think we need to do a complete review of all of our community facilities and get a really good handle on what is the operational costs of them. As Marcus has mentioned, the art gallery is up to $80 per visit from the community. Part of that will be potentially about its programming, not just what the actual facility is. So that is something that we need to look at, not just completely cut it off. Waiaraha the same. I think we do need to go through that. And the other one I've been pushing for, and although someone did raise Toi Toi before, we have been asking for a full review of Toi Toi 2 just to make sure that it is fit for purpose going forward and what model is best for it to operate. So those are the things that we need to look towards.
I just want to pick up the comment that Marcus made about social housing and whether that is just picking up
Senior housing. He said senior housing.
Oh, senior housing, not social, not. Well, the question was this from the floor, and perhaps if you go back to that, Marcus, then first up, is what do you see the council's role in housing, given that some councils, Wellington is the country's second largest landlord, for example. What do you see as the role for Hastings?
Look, really clearly as an enabler. When you give your residents a bad deal and the ratepayers a bad deal at the same time, it's probably not an activity you should keep doing, and you need to look at other ways of delivering it. Now, I've mentioned my finance plan a lot. I've actually got a housing plan at the back there too. That answers the question really well. But what I'm talking about there is, look, we need to make sure that housing is affordable for people. And that means making sure there's plenty of zoned land for housing on poor land so that we don't need to spread out over good land. We need to make sure that intensification is easy to do. We need to make sure that we've got a building and consenting department that works quickly, it works well, and that's through risk-based consenting, where not every consent needs the microscope put across it. The 100th pole shed a company puts up is probably not going to be a problem in comparison to a $3 million new build, for example. And there's stories of issues there all over the show. Now, I think that is the primary role of your council when it comes to housing. It's as an enabler. There are a lot of steps we can take to make housing more affordable in our district.
Damon, for you, what role should the council have in providing housing?
Yeah, look, it's exactly the same. There are pressure points. One is enabling growth and the cost of growth. One of the blunt instruments that we have is called development contributions. Again, we constantly hear it from developers, the cost of doing development, so that is something that we actually need to look at. The other obvious one is land availability, and one of the things that we now have got is medium density. We've got a lot of intensification happening. We need to keep going down that road. One of the best bits of news, I think, in the last week is around the racecourse, and that land can actually be looked at. It's already zoned as residential, and that'll take a lot of pressure off us actually having to spread out onto further greenfields land.
And Steve?
Yeah, I just find it's really interesting. Everything's coming out, all the answers now, but what's happened over the last 9 years and 3 years? Community housing, we did this in 2010 in Manawatu. I actually voted against it. I didn't understand giving that massive asset and selling it to a trust for $1, but it worked. And so I changed, and that's why it's part of my 4-point plan. It's a bit simpler than Marcus's 10-point. But yeah, transfer community assets like Splash Planet, community housing into trusts. Then they can get government grants like Healthy Homes. They can make the homes better, and they need someone to supervise these people. Because there's some people in there, like Allerton Road, for example. I door knocked to the council homes there. I knocked on one door, honestly, I kid you not, 10 cats leapt off the walls at me. It was horrendous. Like, how do you allow that many pets? I mean, it's in these rooms, they're getting wrecked. They stink, some of them. And then you see these same people wander out to the main road, the exact same people pretend they're homeless so they can beg. They've got homes. We don't have that homeless problem. They're coming out, they've got somewhere to live, but to be honest, I wouldn't live there either. I'd probably rather live on the street. So we need another model that's going to supervise these people and get rid of them and get people that are on the waiting list and put them in the homes, people that will look after them. Come on, give us one.
Final plug, last chance to get questions in to us. Again, just use the link and the code on the wall. What is, for each of the candidates, and we'll start with Steve, this time with you. If elected, what's one policy you'd be willing to stake your reputation on, even if it costs you re-election?
Oh, that's easy. Total restructure of council. Back to 10-year levels ago, we have to get rid of 100 staff. Every time we create a new department, we don't get rid of an old department, we just keep building and get more and more and more. Now they're having to lease other buildings to house some of these people. We'll clear out Waiaraha, let's shove some of the staff in there because we own the building, so that'll save costs. But we need a full restructure of this council. We need to drop that 39 million down to 30 million.
Along the same vein, really sorting out the financials as soon as we possibly can, but that is without losing the momentum as well. We do live in a great place, don't we? Are we that grumpy about the place we live in or not? Because I damn well love this place. So that's what we need to focus in on. But we do need to get those financials looked at. That'll be a 50-day plan, so that's prior to Christmas, and then we'll start working through what we need to do with that.
Look, for me, it's really clearly getting rates increases down. If I can't deliver on that, I'd be better off crutching sheep.
We've had a huge volume of questions covering both fluoride and chlorination. You know, we care about water here in Hawke's Bay. Just invite each of the candidates to comment on those two. And I know that there's some, with chlorination, you operate under the government mandate, but perhaps you could cover both.
I can just... Look, it's really simple for me. We operate under a government mandate, like you've said. If we don't put fluoride into the water, we get fined $200,000 and then $10,000 for every day that we don't comply. There have been a number of councils that have tried fighting this, and they've all backed down. There's been a number of court cases about it, and none of them have gone ahead. I would suggest, if that's something that you care about, New Zealand First has put out a members bill on that, and I would suggest that that's probably the appropriate place to deal with that. When it comes to chloride in the water, look, we need safe drinking water. We have standards we have to fulfill, and a part of that is chloride. So that's not something we can compromise on, and it's also not something we can afford as ratepayers to take an ideological stand on when it's not something that we can control or have a say on.
I suspect the answer is going to be ditto.
Pardon?
I suspect the answer is going to be ditto.
Ditto, except for in 2019, I campaigned on getting chlorine out of water. Looks like I was dreaming, because actually it's a requirement that we need by the government to make sure that we've got safe drinking water. So that's currently where that sits.
Yeah, we are a little bit bound, but that's where we lobby the government, right? And as a mayor, you get the other mayors together and you lobby them to give the people decide. Surely it's up to the people. So we need to lobby the government. And if we want to get rid of fluoride, it costs $100,000 a year to mass medicate everyone with it. So, I mean, $100,000, is it better off in our pockets or not? There's evidence both ways, supporting and against. So I'm kind of on the fence myself, but we need to fix our water pipes. I mean, 30% is leaked. So before we can think about taking chlorine out of the water, we've got to fix all our water pipes. Because it's not the, yeah. Okay.
Okay, gents. We've covered, obviously, the fiscals. We've covered the Democratic and Māori wards and unelected or appointed representatives. We haven't covered much on transparency. Damon, you've had some questions around transparency and advice from council staff given to councillors about ignoring complaints and awaiting litigation. What specific steps will each of the candidates take to improve transparency at the Hastings District Council?
December 23, you called me a ratepayer hero for this, I think, in a press release put out by the Taxpayers Union about accountability and transparency. It is really important to me. There are a number of these issues that come up all the time, the most recent one being, and there may be many of you in the room that are impacted, 1,135 properties across Hastings District have had landed on their LIM reports a landslip hazard. And nobody, apart from 2 residents through a real estate agent, actually knew about that. So that is an issue that I have picked up on. So it's a no surprises policy, and sadly, we get many surprises. So it's a matter of actually pushing back, knowing that we are the watchdog, just like the community are, and actually holding council to account.
Just while you're up there, do you support an armchair audit regime where council expenditure, except for payroll, is made public every few months?
Yeah, I think there's opportunities for all sorts of things like that, and dashboards and the like. I think you've released another type of dashboard as well that people can look at and report on. I think that one of the most important things, it's not just what our council is doing, but it's actually how we benchmark against other councils across New Zealand of a similar size, because that's how we improve performance, is by actually measuring ourselves against others.
And have you, on the armchair audit, have you signed the pledge on it?
I haven't signed your pledge yet at all, Jordan.
We look forward
There are 2 steps of that pledge that, I think are actually do have merit. There's the one at the top that I'm questionable about. Many people in the room don't, but the other 2, yes, I do support.
Well, we coincidentally have a copy, which we can deal to later. Marcus, over to you on the same questions.
Yeah, look, transparency is incredibly important, and I'm a fundamental believer, and this is something that was proven through the cyclone. You give people the same information that you have, and most reasonable people will probably come to the same conclusions as you. We need workshops that are open, generally speaking, so that you can understand what's going on. You need to understand what the information is that we're getting and why we're making our decisions. That's important as transparency. Live streaming of meetings has been great. When it comes to other things, for example, armchair audits, great. The more we can be open about what you are spending on the activities that you are paying for, the better, so that we can all make informed decisions rather than relying on, that seems expensive, or there's nobody there, or whatever it is. So, look, we need to be as open as we can, and most things need to be available by right, unless they're commercially sensitive.
So have you signed the pledge on
Yes.
the transparency? Okay. Damon wants to...
Just one other thing, and I raised this last year. I do think there is an opportunity in Hawke's Bay for a Ratepayers Alliance. You are more engaged in local body than many others, and I think it's something that we really do need to look at. I know Napier has sort of done something, but that is something we need to be able to bounce off and talk to ratepayers in a way that makes the place as good as it possible.
Well, the politics doesn't work out. Let's talk. Steve.
Yes. Yeah, I'm all for transparency. However, sometimes in a workshop meeting, when it comes to sensitive commercial, we can't. It's just you shoot yourself in the foot if you put it out to public that you're looking to buy a property, because the price will go straight up the. So there are times where you can't, but not many. It should be the few and far between. But I think the biggest thing of accountability and transparency is the preferred council contractors. Like, really? You can't have competition? You can only go to one person for a quote? Like, that's cartels. That's how cartels operate in monopolies. And we shouldn't be, in this age, we shouldn't be doing that. It should just be council-approved contractors, not the arborist one.
And have you signed that limb of the pledge?
Well, I haven't seen that part of the pledge. All I saw was the... I probably think I signed them all, didn't I?
So, support initiatives that improve transparency of council expenditure, including the public disclosure of all expenditure items, known as Armchair audit and open data.
Did I sign it? I can't remember.
That's not a good sign.
Where's my one?
My assistant will double check.
I'm pretty sure I signed them all.
And the final question this evening from a Sandra H. asks, who's been the best mayor in your lifetime? Damon.
Sandra Hazelhurst has had the toughest, especially 6 years as Mayor of Hastings, undoubtable. There have been so many issues that we have faced as council. I've been on for 9 years alongside her, and it has been a really tumultuous time. At the same time, she's probably doing 80 to 100-hour weeks, and that's something that we have to seriously consider whether we're up for that as Mayor of Hastings. That is a massive commitment that we have to put forward. So I think we should all actually applaud Sandra for her commitment to Hastings, actually.
Doesn't get more collegial than that. Marcus.
Yeah, look, I think we've been blessed with some mayors that have done a pretty good job. Both Lawrence Yule did a good job for 16 years, and Sandra has certainly, while a different flavour, has done a good job as well. And I'd just like to point out that my fiance was glaring at me when you were mentioning 80 to 100-hour weeks, so I better make some efficiencies there.
And last but certainly not least, Steve.
Yeah, I really don't have a preferred mayor. I don't know enough. I've only lived here 10 years, so Jeremy Dwyer's wife was lovely though. I met her door knocking, and she had a lot of good things to say about Jeremy. First mayor to work full time, so I think my vote will go with Jeremy.
There's a blast from the past. So we now turn to the candidates' concluding remarks of 2 minutes each, which has reset the clock to 2 minutes, and of course in the reverse order this time. So Marcus, you're up first.
So look, before I get into it, I just wanted to thank you all for turning out here tonight. It's been a wonderful turnout, and look, you've all stood around and listened to us quite thoroughly. Jordan, thanks for your moderation. Candidates, wonderful. And thankfully, I haven't seen the business end of that water gun, although I've got another probably minute and 45 seconds to see if I can. Now, we've heard a lot from all of the candidates tonight, and I do believe that the choice before you is clear. You can opt for more of the same as we've seen from council for nearly a decade. You can choose from those who offer more grievances than they do answers. Or you can choose someone who has put the hard work in to develop a plan and has the record, the energy to deliver it. You may not agree with all of it, and my door is always open to any critiques that you may have. But at least you know that there is a plan and that it can be delivered. Because delivery is the most important thing in politics. Should I be privileged enough to stand here in 3 years' time seeking re-election, I want to be able to do it based on delivery. I want to be able to stand up here, look you in the eye, and tell you that together we've seen rates rises kept in check and housing more affordable. Why? It's so that you can afford to live in our district, be successful, retire securely, so that your children can see a future here, buy a house, and have children of their own, so that your grandchildren grow up on your doorstep, not at the other end of a phone screen. That is the goal. I have the record, the plan, and the energy to get it done. Thank you, and good night.
Firstly, thank you all for coming out on quite a very cold Monday evening. You have a choice. Tonight I'm putting it all on the line. I am the best person to lead Hastings, hands down. Why? Because I've given my life to this community. I've built businesses here, championed local enterprise, and forged the relationships that matter. I've served on boards and fronted initiatives that make a real difference. Sport Hawke's Bay, Mates for Life, the Jared Cunningham Youth Sport Trust, all strengthening our community. And at council, I've done the same. I've never been afraid to challenge the status quo or stand up for ratepayers, whether it's fighting red tape or driving improvements. I pushed through the review of Building Regulatory Department and it has been turned around. On rates and debt, I've made sure you've known the truth and I've held council accountable and transparent. But let's be clear, Hastings has been hit hard and some candidates are promising easy fixes. We all want lower rates, of course we do, but leadership is about being honest. I'll fight to minimise impacts, but I won't let Hastings lose the progress we've made. Because this is bigger than rates. It's about the kind of place we want Hastings to be. I will fight for Hastings at the highest level of power. Do we retreat into being a small, struggling town with little hope for our kids? Or do we choose to be bold, to grow and attract investment and to create opportunities to build the district that thrives? It's now or never. Hastings needs a leader with experience, energy and the drive to get things done. I've done the hard yards, I've built the connections across every part of this community, and I've had the action-focused leadership to take us forward. I have the experience that counts. My vision is clear. Hastings, a district that is affordable, resilient and ambitious, a place where people don't just live, they belong, they contribute and they thrive. So I'm asking for your vote.
And Steve Gibson.
The real test for any candidate isn't what they promise, it's what they've already delivered. Current councillors are now scrambling to say they'll make rates affordable, but their record shows the opposite. skyrocketing debt, wasteful spending and endless rate hikes. $100 a week for pensioners. Yes, I accept 6% went to cyclone recovery, but what about the other 9%? Millions wasted on vanity projects, new signage, monuments to themselves, and a $50 million private bailout from your money to private landowners. In a decade, debt is blown from $60 million to $500 million. That's not discipline, that's failure. Last year they claimed victory, cutting a 25% rate rise down to 19% by borrowing more. This year it's another 15% increase in rates, with more double-digit increases forecast. That's not proven leadership, and where was the accountability to ratepayers? And if they had a detailed plan, why haven't they used it and fixed it already? While families budget carefully and push past the luxury aisle, council overloads its trolley within the luxury aisle, showing just how easy it is to spend other people's money. I didn't just talk about keeping rates to inflation in Manawatu, I actually delivered it. With my 4-point plan, let's make council more efficient, shared services with neighbouring councils, and reduce and restructure council. Cut costs, stop wasting millions on consultants, and build in-house engineers' expertise, and open council contractors to smaller, leaner contractors. Strengthen oversight, drop the CEO's delegated authority from $10 million that it went up to in the cyclone, and they left it there, and bring back the tenders committee to make sure we've got transparency and accountability. Fix the loss makers, shift the community assets into community trusts so they can access sponsorship and alternative funding and grants. That's the proven leadership Hastings needs now. I'll bring real-world discipline, and I'm not a professional politician.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the last time the Taxpayers Union was in Hastings, we were stopping Three Waters, and we stopped Three Waters with old-fashioned people power. And I was extremely disappointed, as a proud boy from Hastings, to see over in Napier, but not Hastings, one of these beautiful big cap rates now banners. Priyo, could I possibly have a hand? I was very disappointed to see one of these in Napier. This is one I brought from home. But for whatever reason, despite Hastings having a 48.76% average rate hike cumulatively over the last 3 years, I'm not seeing enough of these. And without your help, we're not going to be able to force the government to cap rates to inflation. So, like Three Waters, I'm asking for your help if you support the Taxpayers Union, if you believe in this radical idea that you spend your money better than these fine gentlemen up here at Town Hall. The second thing we're doing, that we've mentioned, is the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, which I'll be inviting each of the candidates to sign or re-sign, opposing any measures that will see the total burden of rates, levies and additional council charges exceed, it's almost like a lawyer wrote this, the level of inflation and population growth, support initiatives to improve transparency we've covered, and oppose unelected appointments onto council committees with spending or regulatory powers. And in the coming days, we will be launching our 2025 ratepayer voting guide, showing every one of the many hundreds of candidates across New Zealand that have signed the Ratepayer Protection Pledge. My final words are to thank my team behind the scenes, Tori Ralph, my head of communications, Ben Furman on the technical stuff. We will be pushing this out as a stream, likely tomorrow night across our socials, and of course the most important person in the room, young Priyo, who kept the candidates to time. And finally, isn't it great to pass all the signs in the festival of democracy, and how lucky we are to live in a society where we get to choose those who spend our money and hold them to account. The least we can do is vote. The voting papers start hitting the mailboxes tomorrow, which leaves the last round of applause to the three gentlemen beside me that have kindly put themselves forward for civic leadership. Thank you to the tens of thousands of our financial supporters that make it popular, make the Taxpayers Union and events like tonight possible, in particular those particular donors from Hawke's Bay that made tonight possible. Thank you very much.